bars in a rave. Man, I go hard like Santan.
International week means another elite series for those of you who have been keeping up. We've done strikers, we've done wide forwards, we've done midfielders. Naturally, we get to centre backs. The idea of the elite series is us discussing different positions on the pitch, players we feel that are elite, why we feel that they're elite, and just try and do what we do really well on the platform, which is tussle. We've got centre backs, and obviously centre backs is going to be a really spicy one because we've got German Dan here. He's going to have a couple of guys who he probably thinks are at that table. We've got Dr. Mike here, who's probably going to have a couple of guys he thinks they're at that table. Disu's a pure hater. Babs, he's probably going to try and mention Cole Palmer. So before we get into the players and what ranks they are, you may not remember this, Disu, but one of our first earliest pods, we were talking about how you rate defenders. And I remember it so vividly because it's like we'd first started and one of like a friend had listened to it. It's like, you guys don't know what you're talking about. This pod ain't gonna last 5 episodes.
What was the initial thing you guys said?
I can't remember. It was like 10 years ago. So it's like, this pod ain't gonna last 5.
That's crazy.
So thanks for still listening, my guy. I was still here.
I guess you're dead wrong. I was like Drake bar back. She says I will be as big as Trey Songz. Oh, was she wrong? Yeah.
Yeah.
We're still here now, brother.
We're still here. So before we get into who's who and where they're placed, I just want to go around and get an idea from you guys what actually factored into your criteria before you tell us where we place players. So I'm going to start with you, Babs.
I think number one for me is consistency. So like the consistency of which you perform.
So no Chelsea players, yeah?
I don't have any Chelsea players.
Cool.
Yeah, the consistency of which you perform, your dominance, both physically and on the ball. So like, can you actually play with the ball? You know, how do you actually play? What are your choices? Are you good at carrying? Are you good passing? As well as also like your different types of defending. So I know a lot of people like them, you know, obviously the high line defending, you know. But I think for me, what's even more important as well is like your actual defending within the box. Because like for instance, I think like an example is like for me, Gabriel. I think he's amazing in the box. Like he's always like finding those blocks last minute. You know, similar for Virgil van Dijk and those kind of things. I think that's one of the hardest ways of actually defending. Because with the high line, you know, you're obviously relying on your recovery pace. So. I think that's obviously a little bit more physical, but it also plays a part into higher rate defenders. Yeah. I think for me,
so a question for you off the back of that: if a defender isn't the most mobile, are they immediately lower down in your rankings before you've even watched them play?
No.
Okay.
No.
Cool.
What if they can't play very well on the high line?
I think for me, it's dependent on the actual ability. So like, can you defend in the box still? Are you still good in the ball?
But what if I said if you can't defend it in the high line?
Can you give me an example of a player?
John Terry.
Boy, I think he played in the high line. There were times where he played in the high line for Chelsea.
No,
Which managers?
Well, Ancelotti played in the high line.
When AVB dropped on the high line, he was going.
Boy.
Yeah, but wasn't he that past 30 at that point? How old is he?
He wasn't past.
Well, Van Dijk's a different kettle of fish.
How old is Van Dijk?
I'm about to defend John Terry.
How old is Van
Literally
Dijk?
could not care less.
Just answer the question.
Ask Babs.
Just how old is Van Dijk? I don't even know.
Babs is over 30, right?
He's 30. He's 32.
Cool. So you kind of given us a bit of an understanding. German Dan, I'm going to come to you. You're a man who, for those of you who maybe don't listen to Touchy Kunas, and obviously German Dan doesn't come on the main pod every week.
Yeah, he's
very meticulous. Very meticulous, and he's detail oriented when it comes
he's
to.
He's not meticulous. He's just got an accent.
No, he's meticulous. He's very meticulous, and he's detail oriented when it comes to making his ratings and analysis. And the reason why I really like that is there's a consistency. You rarely catch him out because he's using the same criteria the same way through. I say
that's a fact, my
boy.
I got a framework.
Yeah, literally a framework. So I say all that to say, what is your framework for assessing central defenders?
So for me, centre backs, and we're talking about the very, very best centre back.
Yeah.
I think Bab said some good stuff around consistency, but it's the consistency of top level performances for me, really, that you gotta separate yourself from the rest of the pack, because I think there's centre backs that are consistently good, but how good is good kind of thing. So, you know, how dominant are you in games? How assured, for me, a big part of being a centre back is how assured are you in your defensive actions? As in, like, if you're going for it, are you going to make it? If you're getting tight, are you dispossessing them, or are you making the control difficult? I think being assured in your defensive actions is a huge part of why someone like, and I'll say a couple of names, Gabriel, Saliba, Van Dijk, why these guys are viewed as the best, because you rarely see them miss out. And if they miss out, it's typically like, it could be an individual mistake, or like, you know, the forward has actually done some really, really good play. So I think like the defenders that are not as assured and consistent in those actions get found out more often. And
Is that the same as the conversation we were having at the start of the season about coordination? Or
Yes.
this? Okay.
A big part of it is, defending is about understanding where the ball is, where the ball could go, and
Yeah.
if you could get there before the attacker. If
Right.
he goes left or right, can I get there before, and can I get my body in
So your
front of him?
the ability to anticipate, I'm guessing.
Anticipate, but also moving your feet while doing it, because the ball is always moving, the defender's always moving with the ball. So how fast are you anticipating and also coordinating your feet to get ahead? So, and then how physically strong are you? Because there's defenders that maybe can coordinate and have good anticipation, but they're not strong enough to hold off a Haaland, body a Haaland off the ball. There's a lot of defenders that won't be able to do that, but the very, very best can in key scenarios. And then I think there's also parts of the game as a centre back where you can separate yourself from the pack. So we say consistently good performances, assuredness, and all this type of stuff. But what is your USP? For me, for example, Saliba's USP is composure. That's a huge. I think that's a quite unique skill to have as your USP. I think Van Dijk also has USP of composure. Then, if you have a strength, how peak is that strength? Van Dijk is peak in the air. Like, it's not just he's good in the air or every centre back.
Absolutely dominant.
Yeah, he's a weapon.
He's actually
Off the
done.
scale,
It's a weapon,
off the
yeah.
scale strong in the air, and Gabriel's off the scale strong in the air, attacking the ball in the opposite box, for
Yeah.
example. So you got to look at like where do they separate themselves from the pack, and it could also be speed, but you're looking at different skills basically, and then you can kind of see you end up having a list. You have like 3-4 names on that list. You're like, actually, these guys kind of different to the rest.
See that? Meticulous. Now you follow up, Dr. Mike. What's your criteria?
No, I think there are things that Babs and German obviously covered in quite a lot of detail that I can't really add too much to. I agree with them both and a lot of what they said. I think a key thing for me is positioning as well. I think often there are some defenders that generate a lot of noise. And what I mean by that is they're making a lot of recovery tackles, they're making a lot of blocks. And then when it comes to the numbers at the end of the season, this guy's made X amount of blocks.
Give. Just we whispered Van der Ven there, but is there anybody else?
Van der Ven possibly is one, but there are quite a few that might like. So when you see clips of like old school clips of like Vidic, right?
I knew you were going to say Vidic.
Right, he's someone that
You're
will.
right, because they brought up. I remember there was a Vidic Van Dijk conversation, and they brought up like a breakdown, and this was like
Blocks.
numbers for defending, because I think defending you can't. It's such a hard thing to quantify in
Activity
numbers.
doesn't mean you're good.
Yeah,
Exactly.
and also there's certain and defending is so much nuance to defense. Like I've literally seen with my own two eyes a man look Van Dijk in the eye and said, "Nah, fam, I'm going the other way."
Yeah.
That is defending. It's almost like in basketball where you have like rim protectors where alters people's shot.
Yeah.
on the
You're
drive.
not going to throw a dunk against Wemby, basically.
Yeah, exactly, right? So, because Vidic was very big in the duels and the blocks and the stuff, like his numbers accumulated were better than Van Dijk's.
Yeah.
But thankfully, the games were played on TV.
Yeah.
And I've watched both extensively.
Right.
And as a supreme Liverpool hater
Yep.
and Man United fan,
Yep.
and Vidic was one of the best defenders in our
Era.
golden era. They're not even in the same planet as defenders.
Fair.
Yeah.
So that's why I think position is important, those sorts of things, because often the defenders get a last ditch tackle in, but they weren't in the right position in the first place, which is why they had to make a last ditch tackle.
Yeah.
I think
Can I mention that apparently fake Maldini quote again? Or-
Yeah, there we go. I think another thing that I really do think in the modern game, a level of physicality in terms of pace and power is really important.
PMP?
Especially PMP, given the way that teams play, right? So if you're playing for a top team, the expectation is you're going to be defending on the halfway line, right? We're going to keep teams penned in, and a lot of the chances you're going to face against us might be on transition, right? So if you are slow on return, that is a net negative for your team. Your team are going to have to set the line maybe a bit deeper, or have players around you, or mitigate for that weakness. So I do think that you can get away with it if you're like unbelievable in terms of IQ. But generally, if you are slow, it will catch up with you at some point in a moment. A team will exploit that weakness, especially if you're playing for a top team where the expectation is to defend quite high and not have many bodies around you, because the whole thing is we want to dominate, create chances, score goals. So I think speed is also really important.
Cool. So where Bab said he doesn't necessarily automatically downgrade somebody based on foot speed, you're saying even if I haven't seen you make an error due to that yet, I just know that it is a weakness that the team has to accommodate.
I think
I'm agree.
But then
Yeah.
my question that
I wouldn't quite say because then
Actually, let me not cut.
yeah.
but then my argument for that is then do you then
1v1,
Bro,
you can
if
speed past
when
easy.
Haaland and them are ducking down, Watkins and them are ducking down the wings, and you're there stuck in mud, nah, brother.
Yeah.
Nah, brother.
Physicality is important in the modern game. 'Cause
I think one thing that's super important in defending is like not making like the minimization of unforced errors. That is like for a top defender, that is mandatory.
Yeah.
Like an unforced error, I should rarely see it.
Right.
So I watch a lot of football, and I think the Arsenal defenders, I've been saying it for a while, they're the best centre back pairing. They do not make errors.
Right.
Very, very rare. Whereas I'm watching my team, and man are like going
it's
with
nasty.
errors.
It's nasty.
You go like no Kano and
machine? Did you say machine with errors?
Yes. I'm telling you, bro.
That's
man,
crazy.
remember Kano and
Error for error is crazy.
error for error.
Versus of errors.
You go ban for ban.
Versus of errors. That's
Error leads
crazy.
to goal. Man, I'm saying at the end of the season, put your errors leads for the goal on the table. Got my defender for doing it. You get what I'm saying? So I think that's super. I think that is super key for me.
Yeah,
Just
I
like,
just think of Harry Maguire when you say errors leading to goals.
because
He's got a gift, man. He's got a gift.
but
Ain't gonna lie.
Sent by God.
there were a season when he gave a bare goals. The year before, I remember in the Muga chat, I was tussling because I was saying Maguire sang 7 out of 10. I said, nah, it's a free because I watched the games.
Yeah.
I'm seeing us catch a bare life.
Yeah.
Where it's literally
You've made them, yeah.
the opposition are either doing the wrong thing or DDG, this was pre-CTE, was doing a Madison goal. But Maguire was finding new ways of creating, like, he was doing a mad thing. Another thing for me with defenders is I really, really value defenders that can defend on the islands. I'm not talking about Micah Richards, Van der Ven, having the speed to outpace a guy and Kyle Walker doing that. I'm talking about the balls in the channel, you're 1v1, can you shut that down? Or could you get to the ball first in the channel and muscle out a Haaland or muscle out a Watkins and get the clearance in? Because those defenders, that's the hardest thing to do in defence. Where it's all well and good, as Anton famously called it, head and a stick defenders. You're sitting
Meat and veg.
there's
Dr. Mike will call it.
and veg.
Yeah?
Meat and veg.
Yeah, I like that as well. There's bare crosses in the box, heading it, down the line, high fives,
Shouting.
Cool. But also not, you've got the advantage. Yeah. Okay, cool. Let's see what happens. There's a high line, yeah, and then whiz the ball in behind, and here's Isak or Harvey Barnes. What are you saying then? Do you get what I'm saying? So that's why the defenders at my club, I don't like none of these use.
Yeah.
I'm gonna keep it.
How important for you guys is the ability in the ball? Because I think I wouldn't
That's
have.
a differentiator again.
Yeah.
Peak ability, a differentiator.
I think there needs to be
how good it is.
Has
Yeah,
someone?
on the ball.
So I'll say this to say because what I've noticed is a lot of teams do against us because Virgil's so peak on the ball.
Yeah.
They'll basically try and
I don't think Virgil's peaking the ball.
he is peak on the ball.
Oh, he's not peaking.
No,
He is.
I think he's got a very good long switch.
He's got a very good range.
But peak on the ball is a Hummels.
Yeah. Yes. David
He
Luiz.
can pick
Okay,
up
fair,
any
fair.
type of pass.
Okay, he's very
You
good on
don't
the
know
ball.
what
Yeah,
he's very good on the ball.
he's good on the ball. Yeah.
So what teams try and do is they will like try and press him in the first phase. So the person next to him, if they are bad on the ball, it's a net negative for us. We cannot get the ball through the.
Teams did that to Man United with Smalling, and Smalling like
And Daily Blind.
Smalling,
Blind,
yeah,
yeah.
Smalling defensively, he's actually in his actions. He was like a 75% winner of duels. 1v1s, he was brilliant. The problem with him that he will have the mad thing here and there, but as like, in all defensive actions, he was top. On the ball, it was too peak.
Yeah, I think
It's like Bambi, man.
I think
on the ball quality needs to be fairly high for
to me personally, I don't need to be top. I just need you to be
Coordinated.
Not a weak, yeah, coordinated and can
It
pass
has to
the
be at a
ball.
certain level in order to be
Yeah,
considered.
Do you know what's so peak about the pro level though? Like these players we're talking about, if they came like to goals,
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, the best
They
player by
look
some
like-
distance.
yeah.
Look like
Yeah,
Messi.
but of course, everything's relative to their level.
Yeah,
right?
but just acknowledging
I'm saying
that, yeah.
if there's a window and you can slide the ball through the line, for me, you have to be able to do it.
Yeah.
but I'm not
100%.
expecting you to be David Luiz. Or
Yeah, no, that's
or
like
Martinez with the
Yes.
ball.
Yeah,
Nah.
like German said, that's a USP sort of thing where you're
Yeah.
talking about that level, but
Yeah.
you just have to be for me competent on the ball, coordinated, the ability to pass the ball through the lines consistently. That for me is really important. So.
I don't think you be firing it through the lines as to rate is just be competent. Like when the balls are, like teams aren't.
It's not a net negative.
Teams aren't hoping you're on the ball. They're trying to funnel possession.
Yeah,
towards
yeah.
you.
that makes sense. Babs, you did want to make a comment, I think, about the whole like underrating players based on their lack of foot speed.
Yeah, because I'm just saying I wouldn't penalize a player for the lack of foot speed if when you actually get to the position you can actually make the tackle, because you could have the foot speed and you're just not really good in your tackles anyway. So you could be fast, but is your actual defending quality up there?
Yeah, but sometimes
You know?
if you're not fast, there's certain scenarios that you just can't deal with, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm trying to think of like players who I'm like mad. Okay, let me speak on defense. I've actually watched extensively. One of the best defenders since Fergie for United has been Daily Blind, and that's because he was super duper clever. super duper clever. We were able to still play a high line with him and Smalling on the LVG because we were quite like we were trying to contract the game within like a 30-yard area. We had a very high line, but we're very compact. And I think Daily Bin was very good. But I do think if Daily Bin box a couple of these man, like Havertz balls down the channel or Watkins balls down Solanke, he will struggle to deal with that in that high line. And there's no amount of intelligence that's going to stop you from doing that, bro. Like, it's just not about intelligence. If they play the ball and the run is right, there's nothing you can do about it.
That's why I said it's always going to be a thing.
That's like when he was at Arsenal. He was
Yeah.
quite competent, quite a good player actually, but the deficiency was clearly there, and you could exploit it.
And obviously that was exploitable if you play a particular system. Obviously, if he's playing in a more mid-lock or low block, you won't have the issue. So I think if we talk about the best of the best, I think you have to be system-proof, right? So the defender I rate the most in Premier League history is Rio. Rio could play left side of centre-back, right side centre-back. He could play deep block, mid-block, high line. Same thing with Van Dijk. He's the best. He's probably... No, he's not the best out now, in my opinion, but he's been the best in like the last 5-10 years. He could play high line. He could play deep line. He could head the. He could do what he called meat and veg. He could do meat and veg. He could do you touch, I touch. He could play the high line. He could do it all. You know what I'm saying? And same with the Arsenal pairing. I think they could do it all.
Yeah.
That's what puts you in the top category for me. If you're a brother that like some of the Atletico defenders from back in the day, Diego Godin and that, they were cold at the meat and veg ball. Let's see coming to the high line, brother. Will you be as good as Puyol and PK? Probably not.
I like that. That's quite a good preamble that you all kind of gave to set the scene. I want to start with you, German, because you went into so much detail. I think we've spoken before about blue chips at the top level, then red chip, the level below. But I think, if I remember the last time you came, you had like 6 different tiers. How many tiers are you coming with this time?
Jesus. Why did you go to him first?
No, because then everything could fall under that.
So for me, I got an elite bracket, then I got the bracket below elite. I've got a bracket where I think you might have top level ability, but you are kind of lacking the consistency or at least the visibility that at the moment for me to say you're even in the bracket below elite. So these are kind of up and coming talented players, and I got players that I feel like I actually overrated. I love it. Them, but I feel like
I love it.
Overrated.
That's why I came to him first. Go on, German.
Cool. So in my elite bracket, I've got the Arsenal pairing Saliba and Gabriel. I've got Van Dijk there, and I've got Rudiger and Marquinhos there.
Okay.
For me, Rudiger and Marquinhos were a bit more. Should I put them in there or not? But I think a big criteria for me was that I've seen Rudiger play Haaland. I've seen Rudiger play other top attackers. And not even shy away. He was looking for it.
He was looking for it. I want to toss him.
I'm coming to mark you. I'm coming to win the ball off you.
Yeah.
And I've seen Saliba do this. I've seen Gabriel do this. I've seen Van Dijk do this.
Right.
For me, it kind of was a criteria of like, if you're an elite defender, you need to look for who's the most threatening guy in that back. And, you know, if that's one attacker or 2 attackers, can I go? I think I've seen Van Dijk do this, yeah.
A bit of delegation for me.
Nah, behave.
I mean, I don't think the delegation stuff is unfounded.
Yeah.
But I think Rudiger probably doesn't delegate as much as Van Dijk.
He loves it though.
Yeah, really, he wants to smoke.
He's a man.
Like he's the kind of guy who like wants to come out of the game. I went to war.
Yeah.
And I won. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I think Marquinhos has a bit of that.
He's an
as
interesting one.
But he's not as peak as the others. So for me, he was like the
Is he what was on the verge?
Yeah, really he's like in between, and I think
He was the best at war in my opinion a few years ago. But
he was really good at one point, and he was really good on the ball as well.
yeah, all rounder.
But, I'm still keeping him there for now. And then I've got the bracket below. I've got the Man City guys in there, so Diaz, Akanji. I think they're all very, very competent, good players, but not quite peak enough. I think
Have you
they're
got
working
Stones
well.
in that group?
No, I don't have
Hell
Stones
no.
in that team. And
Asking the guy a question.
I'll go on to Stones a bit later. I've got
Overrated.
Bastoni in that bracket below elite. I think that's a player that maybe some players have people haven't seen too much of.
Yeah.
But he's very, very strong in his duels. He's excellent on the ball. Like
Yeah.
not just good. He's really, really, really good on the ball.
Yeah.
He can defend wide. He can defend in the free. I'd like to see him in the 2. So
I think you're gonna say that.
I need to kind of see that for him to be in the elite bracket because
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree
all
with
the other guys in the elite bracket, I know they can play in the 2.
Yeah.
They can play high line, defending on Ireland. And I've also got, I think, who I could potentially be elites if they refine their game.
Okay.
So if you're in the bracket below elite, doesn't mean you're close to elite. You're just in that bracket below.
Okay.
So for me, and I've got Konate and Romero there. For me, I think players that probably have too much of the Bozo moments at the moment. I think Romero even more so. Like I think Romero makes a lot of unforced mistakes and errors, but he does have good ability. And I think Konate is similar. Unforced errors and mistakes at times. And I think the ability on the ball with Konate is not really there, in my opinion. Romero has ability on the ball, but he also has main character syndrome on the ball.
Yeah.
So it's like, and you need to find a balance.
They need to they've got minerals to be in, to go up levels, but they need to tighten up quite a bit.
Yeah. And then the lacking in consistency at top level, I think that you could put a lot of players in there, to be honest, a lot of talented defenders. But for me, someone like Gurry was quite interesting because he performed quite well with the Euros.
Yeah.
Plays for Palace, so he's playing in a system where he's not really exposed as much. I'd like to see more, basically. And there's a guy called Scalvini at Atalanta, which I think is really good, looks really competent as well. I'd like to see more. And I haven't seen consistency at the top level yet. And then I've got my last category, which is the overrated or flavour of the month, I should say.
Oh, wow.
Because overrated for me doesn't mean you're not good, but it just means you're rated higher than you should be, in my opinion. And Stones is overrated, in my opinion.
Okay.
The defender, I think, doesn't face the scrutiny the other defenders that I've mentioned, the Gabriel Salibas, the Van Dijks.
Is a part of even that not facing the scrutiny the fact that he's barely fit?
Yeah.
That is also a big criteria for me. If you're always injured, like you can't be consistent.
Yeah.
So he's in that category for me. I've also got in that category Mickey van der Ven.
Yeah.
Because I feel like this is just flavour of the month now. Oh,
Yeah.
he can run fast. He can put out fires here and there. On the ball, he looks smelly, in my opinion. It doesn't look good on the ball, which is, we said, it has to be a competent level. I think it's kind of below that level.
Okay.
I've seen
The
games.
ball carrying's not moving you.
I mean, it was into open space, but I've seen games where teams are not trying to press Romero, but trying to press Mickey van der Ven and getting joy out of it. So that's for me a criteria.
Sounds like a skill issue.
He's kind of lacking that. And then, and I also don't know how good of a defender he really is, because at the moment it's just all action. How smart are you really in your defensive actions? And then the last one I got in there is Lisandro Martinez. I just put that honourable mention there for Disu, because he used to like this guy a lot. And
Yeah, I think he's already too.
you dropped
Yeah,
his
this you
stock.
were all in, but you dropped his slots very quickly.
No, because he played.
It's
really
cool
well.
that he sees it.
He plays really well. He played really well. Yeah. His first season was really good.
Yeah.
Like, all accounts, everybody. So I don't think anyone disagrees.
I do.
You disagree for the sake of disagree.
That's facts.
Yeah, exactly. But if he's not playing good, I'm not gonna say he's playing good, bro. Do you get what I'm saying? That don't make sense. I don't know none of these people. So
Facts.
I'm not like-
Dr. Mike's champion at the bits are going to come across to you.
Yeah, I
How
think
many tiers have you got?
I've got maybe 5 tiers here.
What is my
So why does it make it sound ridiculous that he has so many?
I can do what I want.
Fair enough.
So I've on the top shelf. I have 4 of the same players as German, but Marquinhos is not in there. So Virgil, I think he's still the head of the table at this point. He's not clear. I don't use that language. I think he's the best one. I think Saliba's obviously top player.
Yeah, I disagree with that, but we're going to talk about that.
Okay, we can talk about that. Gabriel's in there for me, undeniable, and Rudiger as well. Those 4 defenders for me. That's what it looks like.
Creme de la creme.
I think potential to be elite's my next category. So guys who I think maybe for one reason or another, it might be consistency, it might be other things.
I felt like the blue chip, red chip brief was pretty.
I was going to say, I came ready for that.
You have to let John and I cook. You know, we have a different way of doing things
Bro,
here.
we're getting here, can't be
So I
all day,
think
bro.
you gonna be here all day, boy. I think I put someone like Konate in that company. I think Konate's big issue for me is injuries.
Okay.
I think German's right. He does have a moment in him, but I think when I look at the game state he has to play in at times, especially last season under Jurgen Klopp, where essentially Trent's inverting, and the job description for Konate is okay. The entire right hand channel is all your job. So the right winger, and if the striker comes into that channel, that's all your work.
Yeah.
There's no Henderson to come back.
Yeah.
Salah ain't coming back.
Yeah.
Good luck, son.
Yeah.
I would, if any other defenders in that situation, they are having a bad day. But I've seen Konate on many times we played top team and Trent's inverting and no one's coming back to help him. I've seen Konate have really good games in that context. I think of a game against Madrid a few years ago. I think of a game against Arsenal against Martinelli, but it was a good tussle and he got the best of him in quite a few of those duels. So I think he has the potential, if he's more available and gets runner games, and we're seeing that this season, he will be in that company at some point, in my view. I've got very good.
Is he the only one in that potential to be elite?
I think the other guy I have in there is the Barcelona centre back. He's in another tier. Araujo. I like him a lot. I've seen him. I've watched him a few times.
I think he's a bit rash.
He's a bit rash, but that's why I'm saying he has an issue. Potential to be elite. He has all the attributes. He's good in the air, quick, strong, reads the game fairly well. I think players, another tier I have is very good, but unlikely to be like on the elite table. I have guys like Diaz in that category. I think Diaz is someone that's been a bit overrated. I think the foot speed for me has been an issue, and I think he can be quite cumbersome, and I don't think he's the best on the ball either.
Cool.
So he's kind of one I'd have there. And then my last two tiers are exciting prospects. So guys who I think they're young, they're kind of learning the trade, but I think they have the potential to be really, really special or really good. So Yoro, Kabasi, those two for me are like, from what I've seen, I like it. And the last tier is, they tell me you have talent. They've told me you have talent. They have told me you have talent. But
I have been told.
But whenever I lock in, I don't like what I see. And that's Upperman Kano. I've only seen one game where I was moved. He played against, I think it was lockdown football, and he got man of the match in the Champions League game. I can't remember who it was.
United, wasn't it? RB Leipzig, was it?
It was like a lockout game, and he was peak, and I thought, oh my gosh, this guy's peak. But since then, whenever I watch him, he's just rash. I'm not really a fan. Delit, they told me he had talent.
He's still riding the Ajax wave.
I
He's
still
three moves, and he's yet to really impress.
That they told me you got talent bracket is large.
It's large, and the final guy that's in there, there are two guys that are in there for me. Romero, I can see it kind of. I'm just like, he's so rash. Having another one who I actually think is a good player, but I think he's getting overrated, is Mickey van der Ven. I think he's one of those defenders that you would, if you watch Match of the Day and that's the way you consume football, you'd really rate him, right? He's a Match of the Day defender in that 100%. Match of the Day will show you 5 minutes.
Actions,
And what they're going to show you Mickey van der Ven did in the game is he carried the ball, cut it back to Johnson, he scored a goal. What a player. After the United game, Tottenham,
the Brian game,
all of a sudden was hearing, is Van der Ven better than Saliba? Because he carried the ball and cut it back to Johnson. Is he better than Saliba?
Yeah.
He was not defending in the clip that we saw. He's carrying the ball into open space.
Yeah.
So that for me,
do you think now you're watching him even closer?
I'm watching him very closely because the way guys talk about him and what I've actually seen, it doesn't match up. That's why when Krug said he thinks Kanate and Van der Ven is close, I vehemently disagreed with that because I just don't see that being close. I wouldn't say he's given I don't like using clear off, but Kanate is just better than Van der Ven.
Yeah.
It's not really
skill, brother.
Skill.
No, it's just you don't have to.
No, he's a wordsmith, so he knows words mean things.
Yeah, trying to confuse people.
He's not a stats man, but he's not a stats man. But when it comes to words, cool.
I know what this guy really means.
Yeah, know what it looks like.
You know, he looks.
Disu, who you got?
Okay, so guys, how I feel about defenders. Like, I don't really care about these youths, but in my elite category, I think Gabriel's the best defender out. Period.
Okay.
I think aggressive, good in the air. He doesn't get enough credit for what he does on the ball. He's actually progressive, and he plays aggressive passes. He's got this pass where he loops it over into like the left channel between the right back and right centre back. So he's number one for me. Obviously, Van Dijk, super defender still. I actually thought he was washed, but that was just one season, so I'm quite annoyed about that. Hopefully, he becomes washed next year. If he stays, that is. Obviously, Saliba. I think Saliba's brilliant.
Yeah.
And then I still have Marquinhos, and I think that's probably more of a body of work thing. I think once you've shown such high level world class play for a long time, I'm going to need to see a lot to kind of
take you out of that group. Yeah.
And at the tier below, I'll have Rudiger quite high up in that tier.
Okay.
I think Rudiger's quality. I also like the name Diaz as well. And I think that's pretty much about it. When it comes to defenders, I don't watch them as closely enough unless I have a reason to. So I don't just really put in man up there off the strength of names.
Fair.
But in terms of players that I think there's too much on their name, I think Akanji's kind of overrated. I'm not gonna lie. I think
is he overrated? Who rates him?
No, people think Akanji's proper sick.
Really?
I just think
he's good. I think he's better. He's better than someone like Romero, for example. For me.
I just think Akanji was solid.
Do you think so?
I just think he's solid. People,
and I put Romero in the bracket where I think he could be elite, but he's at the lower end of that.
I think Romero, and even the more I watch of Spurs, I think Romero is a lot better than Van der Ven.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's the better defender of the season.
A lot of Spurs' issues come down that left centre back, left back channel.
Are we going real talk?
And Van der Ven. Them man are always asleep. Either Udogi's asleep back post, and that channel, because Udogi's always doing this inverting like he's Marcelo. Like, bro, get left back. Like, they're always playing balls into that channel, and Van der Ven is always kind of just like out of sorts, or he's either too tucked in to Romero, So the gap that you could play in that channel is quite large.
Yeah.
I find that very strange. But yeah, that's it for me with the defenders.
Fair. And Babs.
Boy, these men were quite extensive, but in time, like,
You told us to.
No, I'm talking about Dr. Mike. I'm talking about Dr. Mike and Dr. Mike and German. But yeah, in terms of the blue chip, I think I've got this exact same 4 players as German did, and Dr. Mike's. I've got Virgil, Rudiger, Saliba, and Gabriel. I think their body of work has been quality. I think we've seen them defending multiple systems and really well. Rudiger for Chelsea, for Madrid as well. Saliba,
Chelsea, Tuchel onwards.
Yeah, agreed. For Arsenal as well, I think last season as well, when Arsenal played a bit more of a high line, even this season where you've seen that situation where they've had to defend the box.
Yeah.
For me, I rate that box defending even higher because the stakes for me are just
Or
if not higher.
It means more a mistake.
If you make a mistake is either goal
or penalty.
or penalty or red card.
Yeah.
So your ability to actually defend in the box, you know, show
Sometimes
quality
all
there.
three, right?
Is
You make a
massive.
mistake and get sent off, they get a
Exactly. and it's why, like, for instance, like, I like some of what Romero has, but like I feel like he can be rash and it does cost Tottenham at times.
Yeah.
Like, even last season against us, you know, for the penalty they conceded.
He had a bet, man.
Well, he had a bet.
He was supposed to get a red card 3 times.
Yeah, sometimes it's just
third attempts.
Yeah.
sometimes it's like the boys got to you.
Yeah.
They put some money. They either put some money in your back pocket, or they got
500 billion
They got your mum,
pesos, bro.
or they got your mum.
Yeah.
It's one or the other.
Way.
Bro. They got auntie again.
Yeah, so that for me is a blue
You
chip.
gotta do what you gotta do for that Louis.
That for me is a blue chip. And the reason why I've got those players in particular is because I've watched them extensively. So I don't like to put players in a ranking where I don't watch them week in, week out.
Yeah, I respect that.
And 2, when I watch football, naturally, when I'm not watching my own team, I'm not really focusing on defenders. I'm more so, you know, focusing on, okay, what's the midfield saying? What are the attackers saying? You know, what's the magic? And unless you're like a really, really peak defender where your quality is just
Jumping out the screen, yeah.
I'm not really going to be focusing. So that's why I had those guys. I mean, in terms of the 3 for the good chip, I had them Konate, Diaz, and Akanji.
Okay.
So
See,
that was my list.
Quite similar names. I know you guys want to tussle.
Yo, when I spit bars in a rave, man, I go hard like Santan.